Welcome back to Movie Recap. Today I'm gonna show you a 2017 Indian epic action film called Bahubali 2: The Conclusion. Spoilers ahead. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the video. The movie begins with Katappa, continuing the narration about him, killing the future king of Mahismati named Amarandra Bahubali. While narrating, he emphasizes first the war between Bahubali and Balaladeva, in which both of them prove to be warriors of equal caliber and bravery. Yet, Bahubali gets more attention because of his quick thinking to save many lives. Because of that, Queen Mother Rajmata Sivagami decides to declare him as the king, while Katappa, on the other hand, becomes Bahubali's commander-in-chief. Afterward, a sudden devil immolation festival happens upon them in 26 years, and this means it is to serve a commemoration to ensure their prosperity. Katappa also states that the Queen Mother is from the royal family who walks barefoot to Lord Shiva's temple while people praise her. Later, Amarandra Bahubali shows off his skills to stop the elephant from destroying the temple and its people. The Queen Mother watches him proudly while people happily celebrate his succession as he performs. Bahubali then finishes his remaining missions by winning every combat in different places, including conquering the Kalaikiyas. Meanwhile, Balaladeva's father, Bijaladeva, outrages while watching the parade of Bahubali outside the royal palace. Bijaladeva wants his son to be the next king, yet he receives unfortunate news from Katappa about the coronation of Bahubali on forthcoming Vijayadashmi. To Bijaladeva's dismay, he suddenly punches the wall and shouts furiously. While outraging, Katappa leaves a message from Bijaladeva, saying that he was denied the throne not because of his crippled hand, but because of his crippled brain. On the other hand, Queen Mother Sivagami commands Bahubali to tour the kingdom, its neighborhood, with Katappa. However, her servant suddenly interrupts their talk, saying that going on a tour is not a good idea, especially when his coronation is nearly coming. Yet, Queen Mother Sivagami says that they take out idols from their temples to inform their gods if the subjects are happy or not. Later, Bahubali and Katappa begin their tour in the kingdom. As Bahubali enjoys watching his people during their trek, he suddenly sees a lot of dead bodies floating in the river. So, Katappa explains that the bandits want to stop plunder by water burial. Afterward, they proceed on their tour and meet the Princess of Kala, Devasena, Devasena, from the kingdom neighboring Mahismati. However, upon her arrival, Bahubali witnesses the bandits attacking Devasena. Katappa then ensures Bahubali to not worry about himself as they don't have to strain themselves anymore. After a while, the attack has finally ended. And Bahubali, on the other hand, suddenly falls in love with Devasena because of her bravery to kill a dozen of bandits by herself. Bahubali then approaches her after the fight, not listening to what Katappa is saying to him for he feels hypnotized by the beauty of Devasena. Afterward, Katappa shows an unbelief reaction after hearing Bahubali's plan, leaving him no choice. Katappa accepts Bahubali's plan to pose as a simpleton and an orphan. Fortunately, Devasena falls into the trap of Bahubali while Katappa introduces himself as Bahubali's uncle. Then, later on, Devasena gives them a job in the royal place to be one of her guards. To Bahubali's luck, he spends his time training to be one of Devasena's guards in the royal palace. While Katappa, on the other hand, lets Bahubali enjoy his moment with the princess. Meanwhile, Balaladeva receives a message from one of his royal guards, saying that Bahubali and Katappa are in the Kundala kingdom right now. Unfortunately, Balaladeva already knows that Bahubali is pretending to be a blockhead as his guard also assumes that the reason why Bahubali's faking his identity is that he's in love with Devasena. Balaladeva's guard then gives him a portrait of Devasena. To Balaladeva's surprise, he suddenly feels lust for Devasena. As evil as he is, Balaladeva makes his first move and talks to Queen Mother Sivagami. Upon her arrival, Balaladeva asks for Devasena's hand in marriage while signaling his men to show her portrait. Convinced and unaware of Bahubali's feeling for Devasena, Queen Mother Sivagami approves Balaladeva's favor, and immediately sends an emissary to Kala. She then assures Balaladeva that he's going to marry Devasena. On the other hand, the emissary quickly delivers the marriage proposal condescendingly. Later, Devasena finally receives the message of the Queen Mother. However, she suddenly feels insulted after hearing Prime Minister's announcement about having an alliance with the Mahismati kingdom, and the privilege to have luxurious things. Devasena then rejects the proposal with a scathing reply, saying that all their wealth is nothing to her, for it is only equivalent to dust under her feet. Devasena then writes a response letter to the Queen Mother. Later on, the Queen Mother listens to the message on his guard as he reads the response letter of Devasena. Then, after hearing Devasena's response, the Queen Mother, who's furiously mad, sends an order to Bahubali to wage war against the Ktala kingdom. However, Bijaladeva informs the Queen Mother that Bahubali is near the Kala kingdom, and says he can't do the battle alone. But the Queen Mother sticks to her plan, and sends Bahubali a word to capture Devasena as a captive, and bring her alive to the Mahismati kingdom. Meanwhile, Kadapa delivers the Queen Mother's message to Bahubali. As they talk, Bahubali suddenly hears a horn outside the palace, signaling an attack from Pindaris, a dacoit-like army. Bahubali then informs Devasena's maternal cousin, Kumara Varma, about it. Yet, Varma refuses to believe, but not until the Pindaris suddenly invades the palace to attack. Bahubali, on the other hand, helps Varma nullify the attack and save Kanhala. Luckily, Kadapa also helps Bahubali and Varma in the battle. After the attack, Bahubali suddenly engages himself in being praised by Devasena and the rest of the people in the Kala kingdom. Varma then thanks Bahubali for saving them, when suddenly Kadapa interrupts and says that he's just in love with Devasena. Eventually, Bahubali receives a bird post from the Mahismati kingdom, ordering him to take Devasena on their land as a captive. Being loyal to the Queen Mother, Bahubali tells the message to Devasena. And to keep Devasena from rejecting him, Bahubali finally reveals his identity as a crown prince of the Mahismati kingdom. To everyone's surprise, they quickly kneel to serve respect to Bahubali. Afterward, Bahubali continuously talks with Devasena regarding the order, and promises to protect her honor. As Bahubali tries to convince Devasena, he suddenly proposes and vows. To Bahubali's luck, Devasena accepts his proposal, and takes her to the Mahismati kingdom as his future bride. Upon reaching Mahismati, the Queen Mother and Bahubali suddenly have a light misunderstanding after hearing Devasena's word of marrying his son Bahubali instead of Balaladeva. So, Kadapa approaches the Queen Mother to explain everything, yet the Queen Mother refuses to hear it. Afterward, the raging Queen Mother gives Bahubali an ultimatum to choose between the throne or Devasena, so Bahubali chooses the latter without hesitation. After hearing Bahubali's answer, the Queen Mother announces the forthcoming Vijay's Dashmi at the same auspicious hour, whereas Balaladeva will ascend the throne of the Mahismati kingdom. While Bahubali, on the other hand, will oversee the ceremony and the grand coronation as he becomes the new commander-in-chief. However, Bahubali's position in the Mahismati kingdom does not impact his popularity. Instead, people's admiration for him grows even more substantial. Meanwhile, Balaladeva receives hate from his people, saying that Bahubali should be on the throne, not him. Yet, Balaladeva refuses to take down the position, and ignores what the people are chanting. Later, Bahubali gives Devasena a baby shower. As Devasena entertains people to receive their gifts, she suddenly gives Kadapa the honor of being her baby's godfather. Afterward, Balaladeva arrives, and rids Bahubali of his duties as a gift, and replaces him with Sethupathi. Balaladeva's reason for his action is that Devasena always wants his husband's presence, so he gives it. Unfortunately, Bahubali accepts it without complaining. As Bahubali gives his weapon to Balaladeva, Devasena suddenly speaks out against the Queen Mother's inaction by saying that she's witnessing an elaborate charade like a mute spectator. Devasena even commands Bahubali to grant her wish by taking the throne of Balaladeva. Afterward, sudden clashes ensue between Devasena and Sethupathi, after seeing him molesting women's bodies. Later on, Bahubali receives the news about Devasena and furiously enters the court. Devasena then tells his husband what happened between her and Sethupathi. Then Sethupathi, on the other hand, walks towards the Queen Mother as he convinces her that Devasena is not telling the truth. To everyone's surprise, Bahubali slices the neck of Sethupathi for not admitting his wrong. Because of that, the Queen Mother punishes Bahubali and Devasena by banishing them from the royal palace. Little does the Queen Mother and Balaladeva know, Bahubali and Devasena live happily among the people as they choose to have a regular and peaceful life outside the royal palace. Later, while Bahubali helps the people survive and give their needs, Balaladeva watches him with his royal guards from afar. Meanwhile, Bijaladeva traps his son by convincing Varma that Balaladeva is after Bahubali's life. As they talk, Bijaladeva tells Varma that he must kill the king to safeguard his brother-in-law and cousin from death. Bijaladeva even comes from his words that Balaladeva must die. Afterward, Bijaladeva helps Varma enter the palace in the stealth of the night using the secret passage in the royal palace. As Varma and his men enter, Balaladeva discovers him, and signals his men to kill him. Unfortunately, before Varma dies, he realizes that Bijaladeva fooled him, and is plotting with his son after all. After the merciless killing, Bijaladeva convinces the Queen Mother to kill Bahubali by making a story that Bahubali gives his dagger to his cousin-in-law, Varma, to kill the king. Bijaladeva also adds that Bahubali reveals the secret passage so that Varma could quickly enter Balaladeva's room. Convinced, The Queen Mother believes that Balaladeva's life is under threat, and that Bahubali must die. Even though the Queen Mother realizes that killing Bahubali would result in a civil war against their people, who probably will revolt, she still sticks to her plan. Later, Balaladeva orders Katappa to assassinate Bahubali as another option on killing him. To Katappa's surprise, he tries convincing the Queen Mother to take back Balaladeva's words, yet she refuses to listen. So, Katappa says that he's not going to do it, for he doesn't want Bahubali to get killed. The Queen Mother then asks Katappa if he wants him to see killing her son. To Katappa's surprise, he tells Queen Mother that he will be the one to do it instead. Katappa, a man who is bound to serve the Queen for the rest of his life, has left no choice, and takes her order. Afterward, Katappa orders a random stranger to inform Bahubali that he's in trouble. Bahubali, on the other hand, believes and tells Devasena that he needs to help Katappa. Afterward, Bahubali saves Katappa from burning in the pyre when an army of bandits suddenly attacks them. As Bahubali and Katappa fight with the bandits, Katappa eventually stabs and kills him in the back. After Bahubali's death, Katappa witnesses Balaladeva's betrayal of his brother as he suddenly appears in the battle. Afterward, Katappa informs the Queen Mother about Bahubali's death. Eventually, Devasena arrives in the royal palace as the Queen Mother asks for repentance of her sin. Afterward, the Queen Mother reveals to the panicked hordes about Bahubali's death. And then, she eventually lifts the baby Mahendra Bahubali as she ascends him to the throne. Later on, Balaladeva reveals his scheme to the Queen Mother while Bishaladeva orders the guard to seize her and the baby. So, the Queen Mother immediately flees with the new king, and leaves the palace with the help of Katappa. The Queen Mother then convinces Devasena to escape, but Devasena refuses. As the Queen Mother runs, Balaladeva shoots her with an arrow, resulting in her falling into the river. Later, Balaladeva rules the Mahismati kingdom as he becomes a tyrannical emperor who holds Devasena as a prisoner for over 25 years. After that, Balaladeva commands his men to destroy the Kanala kingdom. Meanwhile, after 25 years, Mahendra, whose alias is Shivyadu/Shiva, finally sees his mother, Devasena. Then, after listening to Katappa's story about what happened during Balaladeva's reign, he immediately declares war against the warriors of the Mahismati kingdom. Mahendra grows training all by himself to be a warrior, and ends up in alliance with the rebels who try rescuing Devasena to escape the royal palace. Going back to Mahendra, he orders his grandfather, Katappa, to ask the young, old, and everyone to assemble before him. Afterward, Mahendra watches his rebel army that consists of villagers and scattered soldiers. Devasena, on the other hand, gives his son a venomous look as she listens to his words. Mahendra then commands the army to bring any weapon they can find. With the help of Katappa and Avantika's assistance, the rebel army lays siege to the Mahismati kingdom. Fortunately, Mahendra is now going to free the kingdom from the curse as he also proclaims himself that he will take it back from the hands of Balaladeva. As Mahendra begins their journey to attack, Balaladeva, on the other hand, finds out that Devasena has escaped. As Balaladeva furiously shouts, his guard suddenly informs that Katappa will have a revolt. To his surprise, Balaladeva walks toward the balcony, and uses the enormous telescope to see if his royal guard is telling the truth. Unfortunately, Balaladeva finds out Devasena is coming on his way to the kingdom together with his son and the rebel army. Later, the battle finally ensues. Balaladeva then, suddenly recaptures Devasena as he joins the war in the field. So, Katappa, Mahendra, and the rebels run towards the kingdom, and successfully breach the city walls to save Devasena. Afterward, Mahendra performs his final fight with his uncle, Balaladeva. As they battle, Mahendra pins down his uncle using the chains from Devasena's cage. Fortunately, Mahendra wins against Balaladeva. Then, after completing the cleansing ritual, Devasena walks her way through the battlefield to finish what Mahendra has started. Devasena then burns Balaladeva on a pyre, and successfully ends his reign permanently. The movie ends with Devasena crowning his son, Mahendra, as the new king of the Mahismati kingdom. While Avantika, on the other hand, stands beside Mahendra as his queen. Then, after putting the crown in his head, Mahendra announces to his people that the Mahismati kingdom will start its dedication to upholding peace and justice under his leadership. And to those people who believe in hard work and justice will eventually walk with their heads held high. Mahendra then gives his first order to his men to toss the head statue of Balaladeva out of the palace walls. As the royal guards follow Mahendra's order, Balaladeva's head statue falls into the great waterfall while breaking and crashing against the cliff's walls. Eventually, the parts of the statue land near the lingam where Mahendra has carried earlier. Thank you for watching. Subscribe for more videos like this to help the channel out. Have a nice day.